The political trajectory in Nigeria has indeed brought a kind of a commendation on one side, as well as being characterized with criticism, and as a matter of fact, it is indeed said to be on the right track. However, though, that is not to say Nigeria has not come a long way when it comes to democratic dividends, that reach to the doorstep of its teeming citizens. Hello, dear. Thanks for joining us on Political Affairs on Karma TV. My name is Chris Jacobs, and of course today, as usual, I've been joined by Mike West. He's a public affairs commentator, and he joins me now to further the conversation the more. Hello, Mike. Good morning and compliment of the season.
Good morning. So delighted to be here once again.
Indeed. Now, let me start by asking you, first of all, how would you describe, of course, the political development in Nigeria? I ask this question because not to say we are in political season, we are not politicking, as a matter of fact. It is time for governance. But looking at the political development as a premise for democratic dividends, how would you describe it? Will you say Nigerians, have indeed come a long way in terms of understanding what politics is?
Well, thank you very much. You see, Nigeria as a nation since 1999, when we started our democratic journey, we have had some good strides here and there. But honestly, to my mind, I think around 2015, I think those gains were not built on. It has been rather rolled back several years back. Since 2015 till date, honestly, one would have thought that one is in a nightmare, that he wishes that he wakes up, and it's not like that. Nigeria currently is in his death throes, if I may use this word, because honestly, we have not moved forward. Instead, we have moved several steps backward.
What will you attribute this to?
I think I'll just attribute this to politicians that just came on, politicians without sense of nationalism. All they have is just an unbridled ambition for power. They just want to get the power, and what do they get the power for? Not to improve the nation, but of course to massage their egos generally. And this, because of this unbridled ambition, hunger for power to do nothing, they are visionless people. So Nigerians are now bearing the brunt of all of this madness.
But someone watching you, watching us, and listening to you talk now will not to agree with you, as a matter of fact, because looking at the crop of legislators that have occupied these elective offices, legislative chamber, a lot of them are new into it, and it seems that there is this competition in the air, not among themselves, but of course everybody wants to bring the dividends of democracy down to the people. Wouldn't you say rather that the crop of politicians that we have recently, have done or are doing much more better than what we had previously?
Well, in my honest opinion, I think we are far off, from democratic dividend, if I must say. Because when you look at current politicians, for me, I think the essence of democracy and governance, they say government of the people, for the people, and by the people. So I think everything, when everything is said and done, I think the masses of this country, standard of living has got to be raised. I think those are the basic index, to measure some of this progress, if at all. We
will get to that when we discuss the economy, but first of all, let's look at the mindset of Nigerians. You just gave a fantastic definition of democracy, which is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, which of course entails a value chain, and the people are involved basically. Now, will you say that Nigerians, of course, who make up the greater majority of the people, the people are the ones that elect those officials, to this office, to this echelon of affairs and leadership. But the level of awareness, political civilization in terms of democratic era and moment, how would you describe the mindset of the people? Would you say the minds of Nigerians have been revolutionized in such a way that it's not going to be business as usual? And of course, they should be able to get to the point of asking questions to their representative because they voted them to power.
Not at all. I think, to my mind, Nigerians are still way back below the expected level of political education. Because if you look at now, or currently now, you see that the political education is very, very low, and the political parties are not even interested in raising that bar. You know, so you find out that, and again, and I see it as deliberate, you know, because majority of Nigerians are illiterates. Even the ones that have gone to school are educated illiterates, because poverty has been so weaponized in this country.
So you think it's a deliberate creation?
Yes, I think it's deliberate, so that people are not educated enough, and people are not standard of living. People are not comfortable. So you see the instinct of an average human being is, first of all, survival. Abraham Maslow says, you know, the man, first of all, thinks about what to eat, and then where to sleep, roof over his head, and then clothes on his back, before he'll be able to think rationally. But you see, all of these things have largely been taken away from us Nigerians. So you find out that a lot of people that are not ready to die for what they believe in, most of the time would trade their mandate, trade their power, or trade their votes for porridge as low as 500 or 2,005. So I think we have not moved from there. The political education up until now is extremely, abysmally very low.
But do you think also that is cliche? It has a way of affecting Nigerians, where they say Nigerians are emotionally strong, you know, of course, in cold suffering and smiling, and we survive, you know, any moment, any leadership that comes, whether it is a tyrannical dictator or what, Nigeria can still survive it. So we adapt to any new forms of policy or whatever hardship that comes our way. Does that cliche have a way of affecting, you know, the decision-making prowess of Nigerians?
You see, Nigerians, it's not much of a cliche, but I think, like I said, that the mind of Nigerians have not been properly re-engineered to understand what governance is all about, and then seeking accountability, you know, from the governors or from the people that rule. So an average Nigerian thinks that a politician is his god, and then he's got no sense of accounting to him on any issue of governance. So I think this got to change. I think, and at the end of the day, I think this boils down to education. Nigerians are not educated enough because they don't even know, we don't even know our rights. And we're not even ready to die for our rights.
I like what you say. Nigerians don't demand for accountability.
Yes.
Now, do you blame the leadership or the system? I ask this question because, for instance now, you voted your member into House of Assembly or House of Representative or just or the National Assembly or even the governor, but having an access to the governor, having an access to your senator or member House of Representative, it has become an issue. So is it a system now that has a kind of a barricade the people from demanding for accountability, you know, from their leaders, or is a deliberate creation by the persons at the echelon of affairs, so that, you know, you talked about, so the followers see them as a demigod somehow in such a way, so they correct that perception, and it becomes pretty difficult for Nigerians to approach their leaders' demand for accountability. Now, I would like you to ponder on this, because we'll take a short break, so that we have a breather, and when we return, you're going to react to this, because it's very critical to know whether it is a system or is a deliberate creation by the people. All right. You're watching Political Affairs on Karma TV. We'll take a short break now. When we return, there'll be more on this conversation. Join us again. Alright, glad to know you're still there. We have just joined us. You're watching Political Affairs on Karma TV. I've been speaking with Mike West. He's a public affairs commentator, and our focus is on recent developments in Nigeria, particularly the policy of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Alright, before the break, I asked you whether or not it is a system that has subjugated Nigerians from demanding accountability from their leaders, or it is the crop of leaders who, in such a way, has deliberately created a kind of a fortress for themselves that Nigerians hardly can find access to them to demand accountability.
Well, to my mind, I think it's a two-way traffic. And in this case, it takes two to tango.
Absolutely.
Okay? So you see that the fault lies with the rulership as well as followership. Because at the end of the day, you'll find out that, in fact, as a matter of fact, the rulers in this country have just simply, they are cashing in on the weakness in Nigerians, to perpetrate whatever they want to perpetrate. So at the end of the day, you see that it's two-way affair. It takes two to tango. So you find out that, if I look at South Africa, in the days of apartheid, you could see that people were brutally treated, by the police, by the establishment. But you see, South Africans were downright determined to seek for their rights. People were killed and people lost their lives and limbs, all sorts of things. People came together. But in Nigeria, it's not like that. In
trying to demand your right, you were in this country when Nigerians took to the street during the hashtag End Bad Governance protest. Even before that, hashtag End SARS protest also that led to the loss of lives. And the recent one, as a matter of fact, was the hashtag End Bad Governance. And yet, we see institutions like the police, institutions like some security operatives, as a matter of fact, clamped on innocent Nigerians who came out to demand for their right. And it is still in this country where some persons were arrested and incarcerated, and of course they were fined about ₦1 million with an undertaking that you will never participate in any protest again in this country. So, what do you make of the institutions, talking about the Nigerian police, security operatives, the judiciary, and so on and so forth? The institution now, seem to have been pocketed by some individuals who tend to be stronger than the institution. Because experts will tell you that until a country's institution becomes stronger than individuals, we will always see this shenanigans that is coming to play.
You see, the truth of the matter is, Bob Marley said, "My right is my right. You cannot give me my right."
Because it's yours.
These are fundamental human rights given by God. But you see, most of the time, honestly, rights are not served a la carte. Okay? So, with the benefit of hindsight, if you look at what happened during the NSARS and the recent hashtag bad governance, as a matter of fact, Nigerians did not even achieve the critical mass in terms of protesters. You see that it was just a handful. Permit me to say, if you look at the entire security personnel in this country, they are not even more than 2 million. Every one of them put together. But Nigeria is about 250 million and counting. So you find out that sometimes it beats my imagination. How could just people that are under 2 million control people that are this much? You know, if we look at countries like Sudan, for instance, and if we look at even Syria, for instance, currently in the news, you find out that people decided to say, let's take our destinies in our hands. Okay? But we are not calling for violence. We are not calling for violence. That's not what we're calling for. But we have the power of the vote. We can vote out these people. If every Nigerian determines to say, I'm not going to collect anything from any politician, I'm not going to be sentimental. Even if you were my brother, same father, same mother, and you come up with some sentimental gimmick just to get me to vote for you, I won't. By the time we have that mentality across Nigeria, you see that we'll be able to take back our country. Look at Yaya Bello, for instance, the guy that was just granted bail of over 200 billion.
Yeah.
You find out that by the time he came, you know, to his kinsmen, you see how they were jumping hallelujah and clapping hand and welcoming him. So what is the meaning of that? And we also saw Alemas here in Bayelsa State, and we saw James Ibori in Delta State. You know, they said he's our brother, even if he's corrupt. Leave him alone. So you see, this mentality, they are part of what brings us down every day.
The society celebrate corruption and corrupt practices.
Yes.
I was trying to say.
Yes.
But talk to me also concerning. That's why I asked you earlier about our judicial position. You know, the justice system of Nigeria. For instance, now you gave an example with your former governor of Kogi State, Bello, alleged to have embezzled billions of naira. But of course, you know, he's not the first person to have been bailed, have given conditions for bail. And what also, you know, make me uncomfortable as a matter of fact is the issue of plea bargain. So somebody can embezzle, let's say 100 billion naira, and they will say he should pay like 20 billion naira out of the 200 billion naira he has embezzled, and he goes scot-free, on a free bird. They call it plea bargain. While a street orchard, you know, steals a goat and he is sentenced to 6 months, 10 years or thereabout in prison without a plea bargain. So it seems those who have occupied these elective offices, those who have been in echelon of affairs, you know, have this grace to steal public funds and also be scot-free as long as they have little amount out of it to give us plea bargain. Plea bargain only works for those at the echelon of affairs, and it doesn't work for the common Nigeria. Is that fair enough in terms of our justice jurisprudence?
No, it's not fair at all. You see, with due respect, I think the Nigerian judicial system or the Nigerian judiciary is famously corrupt. Okay? It's fantastically corrupt. In Nigeria now, you know, the general mantra in Nigeria now is, if you know your right, do you know the judge? Do you know the judge?
But they say the court is a hope of the common man.
I know that is, of course, that is just a legal mantra, we know, on paper. But honestly, in Nigeria now, this, if you insist, you say, I know my right. Somebody says, do you know the judge? Okay? So you find out that the entire judicial system, or the judiciary itself, justice system, if I may say, has been skewed in favor of the who is who's in this country. The money bags, the power peddlers, and so on and so forth. So you find out that everything is in a total mess, except if we have real judicial reform and we are able to change our hearts and mind as a citizen. Honestly, we are going to continue in this vicious circle for a very long time to come. You can see now, for instance, it is the Nigerian judiciary now that counts votes. They have now become the INEC, de facto INEC, you understand? So you find out that winners are now told in court rather than through the judicial democratic process.
And I remember sometimes,
and all these are misnomers.
Yeah, former President Goodluck Jonathan say, until we get to the point where our election is not determined by the court, you know, we will not get it right. Because just like you said, you know, winners are announced
in the court.
In the court.
The court now counts the vote instead of INEC.
So it makes the civic participation of Nigerians to be futile.
The thing is, people are disenchanted about the whole political process.
Could that be the reason why we see voter apathy? People don't come to vote?
Of course.
Okay, well, let's move a little bit further, you know, on the policy of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, talking about his economic policy. And I know that you know, the economy is biting harder. A lot of people, you know, hardly can feed. But you cannot throw the bad water with the baby. Of course, there is still some good side of it, because he talked about we shouldn't eat our future and the future of our unborn children, you know, and yet he's still adamant and resolute on the fuel subsidy removal, as well, looking at the local government autonomy. And I think that is also a way to go. If we have three types of government, we should also have three arms of government, isn't it? You know, federal government, state, and local government. So isn't that a good way to start?
It's a good way to start, but you see, why Nigerians most of the time greet all these things with skepticism is because we have heard this before. We have heard these promises and promises before. You'll find out that these days, people look at what you do rather than what you say. Okay? On the surface, it looks beautiful, it looks good, but people are like, at the end of the day, I hope this is going to lead to something better. Okay, we saw in the Buhari's administration, he came with all sorts of funny reforms and all that, closed the borders, did this, shut down the borders, and said we should go to farm in the midst of gross insecurity. So you find out that people became poorer and poorer and poorer. And so Tinubu said he was going to continue where Buhari stopped, and here we are now. Everybody is in Armageddon. So I think it's a good idea, but I hope they'll be able to follow it, you know, to the letter. Okay?
You talked about security, but of course you can, as a matter of fact, attest to the fact that there's an improvement, you know, in terms of fighting insecurity. Before now, the Northwest has come under siege, you know, by the activities of terrorists, but at least to an appreciable level, security is improved just a little bit. I'm not saying it has improved completely, but compared to what is obtainable previously, there's an improvement. And looking at what is happening in the northeastern part of Nigeria, except for recent times where Nigeria lost some 6 gallant soldiers who paid a supreme price, and yet the Nigerian military still went on, you know, to neutralize the terrorists. How would you describe the security development in this part of the country?
Well, in this part of the country, I think the security situation has really improved. It has improved, and so we have gone way far off, you know, from the nasty situation we were way back in 2015. Somebody wouldn't go to farm, and in fact, you know, the criminals actually existed with a lot of impunity, absolute impunity. But I think these days people are brought to book, and I think things are looking a little bit better these days.
All right. Finally, before I let you out of the studio, as a matter of fact, you're an indigenous of Adamawa State. I'd like you to you know, share with me your feelings about the step taken by Right Honorable Amadou Moro-Fintiri, you know, vis-a-vis the infrastructure development strides, as well as the creation of some of these district head, and of course the conferment of you know, emirs and chiefdoms of some part of the state, like Hong, Fufore, Dumne, you know, Maiha, and so on. And some say is government and governance being brought closer to the people.
Absolutely. I think Fintiri, His Excellency Amadou Fintiri, is the best thing that that has ever happened to Adamawa State. We have never had it any better. You know, his administration has proven that, at least if there is political will, better things will be able to be done to the people. You know, I met a friend the other day. He was like, If you came to Yola 5 years ago and you came in now, definitely you get lost.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's true. So you see that infrastructurally, this man has done more than what the entire governors since Gongola state combined have done. This man, I think he is the bomb, he is the best. And in terms of the traditional decentralization of the emirate, I think it's a very, very fantastic one. You see, it's good for our unity and it's good for sense of belonging to everyone. Let nobody be left behind. And this is exactly what he has done. You know, this is 21st century. It's not 1914 where, you know, some people must kowtow, you know, to certain people. It's not done like that. And I think this man has democratized the whole atmosphere, the whole situation in Adamawa State, and I think everybody is feeling good about it, except maybe detractors.
Okay. Well, so someone will say he has further revealed that governance, you know, can be done much easier and much productive than what we have experienced over the years in Adamawa State.
Honestly, he has touched every aspect, every facet of
Right.
Adamawa State, and we are so proud of him, mighty proud of him. He's doing a good job.
Well, Mike West, our public affairs commentator, there is no better way to end this conversation than now. Thank you so very much for finding time to be on Political Affairs on Camera TV. I'm looking forward to seeing more of you again.
Thank you very much. I'll always be delighted to come around.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, viewers, that's our show for today. Thank you so very much for being with us. You can follow us again on our YouTube page as well as follow us on our handle that will be reflected on your screen right about now. My name is Chris Jacobs. God bless Nigeria.